Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness. I wish to go into a little flow with the guides. It's just a channeled stream of information coming through in a wordplay format that is meant to be felt sometimes, but also I think what I'll be tuning into potentially are some of the solar energies that are coming in right now, and also maybe some of the frequencies that we're tuning into that our body might be, the word that's coming through is adjusting to. So I'll do that in just a moment. I want to just back up and invite everybody to take a breath, go into the heart, come back into a place of just feeling what the body is feeling right now. Oftentimes we are desensitized, or our senses are heightened. I keep being shown wires, right, that are frayed because maybe we're overstimulated, or in some cases not stimulated enough mentally, emotionally, so on and so forth, but we're overstimulated through electricity and programming and drama and such. So it's challenging because the overstimulation is all around us. And simultaneously, our bodies are becoming more activated because of the energies that are coming in from the plasma and the sun, because of what's happening inside the earth, bringing up this, the word that my guides keep telling me is ketones, but not like ketones necessarily from a diet, but ketonic is what they're calling it. So it's a play on words. And also compression. And so again, it's like this compression that's happening and a charge is being ignited within us, the flame, if you will. And it's not necessarily happening to everyone at the same time, but it's happening to many of us at different times, sometimes at the same time. I play with time loosely. I was essentially shown this earth having some, obviously we know things are shifting on the earth. Many of us have heard, if you're in the spiritual community especially, earth is changing and all of this is happening and we're going through ascension. But essentially, this is all happening at our own rate also. So I wanted to share that because I feel like some people are not recognizing what's happening. So they're swept up in this escalade, if you will, of emotions, of physical discomfort, of and even if you do know what's happening, you can still get swept up in that. I speak from experience. But if we can find the guides keep calling it state of grace, and that's even a play of words, that essentially balance and harmonization of coherence as frequently in frequency, right, as possible, it helps us attune to not only the changes in frequencies that are being uplifted from the earth, but also to the sounds that we are receiving, the signals we are receiving from these disturbances and from the solar energetic, boy, there's so much coming through. I'm trying to linearize it. Essentially, it's all happening at once, right? So if we can find our space of balance as frequently as possible, we're able to then enjoy the activations a little bit more. We're able to differentiate more frequently between what we do and don't need. And we're able to kind of follow this rhythm that is an undertone. And that's a play on words. And I want to play with that for a moment. I'm not very good at overtones and undertones. But for those of you who have listened to my sounds before, especially when I started doing these videos, I had a lot of weird sounds I was sharing with everyone. And essentially, when you do an overtone or undertone, you make this sound, but I call it the sound behind the sound. And all of a sudden, a third sound will come out, or a second sound. And it is kind of what the guides are trying to say is what's happening. So simultaneously, we have this current or sheet of music with a note, and we're all operating within that current. Simultaneously, there's overtones and undertones that we are not necessarily aware of, that we're not necessarily used to playing with, and we're certainly not used to expressing them. And so this is everything I share is physical in our bodies, is also cosmic, or it can be interpreted in a myriad of ways. So once we start to find our voice and we can find this hum, we can find these sounds within us where we stream them at the same time, but they represent a bigger scale, a larger schematic. So that's my very, I don't know, my okay way of interpreting or sharing my interpretations of what I'm being shown. So now we'll go into the wordplay and I'll see where this is going to go. And I will do more videos eventually on what this is all about. You could think cymatics, right? You could think of, I love this background because of the double diamonds. You know, that to me is a representation of not only time and hourglass, but it's also a representation of the toroidal field and infinity. So yeah, we'll just play with this. So as these energies heighten, as we become more accustomed to them, our senses, our ability to sense and connect with these underlying frequencies become more frequent. We are then able to tap into the energies that have been dormant, one might say, within us. I'm hearing what lies beneath. We are then able to communicate with those frequencies and energies, and we are no longer boxed in to a particular diagram or linear perspective that is not suitable to our higher objective. We begin to find ourselves again and again dissolving the exterior complications. And we will play with this for a moment. I'm battling with myself right now because I want to explain what I'm seeing, but I want to just stay in flow. So I will say one thing about this. I'm being shown that all the meridians and channels that are in the body, what my guides had said earlier was, what if they all came online? And I encourage and invite everyone to look up acupuncture. Look up acupuncture meridians. If you've never really looked inside the human architecture and inside the human template, blueprint, skin suit technology, it's fun to look at it and really sense it in your own body, in your own template, in your own temple, right? Because a lot of us are disengaged from that because we're so engaged with the other stuff, whatever that is, fill in the blanks, right? Social media. I'm hearing memes, right? It's like, how many times are we going to get these memes that grab our attention throughout the day? And that's all fine. We're meant to collaborate and tune into that as well. That's part of our experience. But what I'm being shown is a lot of people have just tuned out of the body entirely. They think because they're exercising, they are tuning into the body. But there's still a separation. I'm hearing separation of densities like oil and water, right? So, and that has to do with consciousness. So we're really being called to fully consciously go into our center of our heart, of our body, of our base, our pillar. Because once we do that, we establish a deeper connection with the sound behind the sound, with the spirit that moves through all things, that the indigenous peoples referred to it as. The you inverse, right? The version of you that is connected to a deeper aspect of wholeness and unification. And part of what they are sharing is that if we are not unified within ourselves, we become unstable, we become less capable of interpreting our environment and our reality, we become separate. And we begin to separate ourselves from our true abilities to harness the energies that are coming in. So one of the things they're showing me is it's not necessary to seek to harness those energies. It will happen naturally once we come into attunement with ourselves. This is another message that's coming through. A lot of people are looking for the shortcut. They're looking to, if I just focus on Kundalini activation, everything will be fine. I'll have my intuition turn on and I'll be whatever it might be. But as many of you know who have activated your Kundalini, it requires a lot more sometimes than just activating the Kundalini. That is not necessarily a shortcut, because once you do that, and I'm just using that as one example, it could be, activating, opening the pineal gland. It could be opening up the heart chakra. Now the heart chakra that's the biggest, most important part about it. Because if you're activating your intuition and you're activating your Kundalini, which is the energy, that life force energy that moves through the body, think spine to crown, that also this is all connected to the cerebral spinal fluid and so on and so forth. What happens is you still have to be in balance. Otherwise, it can be even more overwhelming. It can be even more emotionally disturbing, meaning there's no, it feels really off and everything is turned on. My senses are on, I see, feel, hear, know. It can be very overwhelming. So until we open this portal, all of the other stuff doesn't really stick. It doesn't necessarily hold compatibility, if you will. So what I'm being shown is if we can find that space of inner compression, stability, holding that space, all that other stuff that's happening around us and within us, we're then able to stabilize. So why am I being shown this? Oh, because the activations that are coming in, they're just happening naturally. All of this is part of our divine birthright. It's not like we have to ask for it. From my perspective, being here on Earth is what is part of the asking. We wouldn't be here if we weren't here to experience certain things. However, each of us it's an individualized experience. So it certainly doesn't hurt to ask if that's what we want, if that's what we want to bring in. But if we're asking, I'm just hearing, ask and it shall be given. But on the flip side, recognize that what we're asking for sometimes may not be in alignment with what we need or what we're ready for or what we are potentially, sorry, I just got a squirrel. Okay, let's get back online. And so it is difficult at times to differentiate between what it is we do need and what it is we don't need. And from a higher perspective, we are all of those things. So in a linear place, we may not know exactly what it is that we need. We might think we know. From a higher standpoint or a multidimensional perspective, we do know what it is that we need. And if we were each and every one of us in alignment or in attunement or in coherence, that state of grace would openly expand and we would absorb and essentially transmute, and we would naturally be the conduit that would easily be able to flow into the next phase of expansion. But because many of us have been bogged down by pieces of information that have collected in our field that no longer hold the same connection points or data points that are helpful for our actual ascension, I'm seeing like space trash. I'm seeing like it's harder for us to orbit because of all this debris in our field. And so as we clear the debris, or let us say, when we come into coherence, the debris naturally dissolves. The field around us naturally becomes a more cohesive unit with our Merkaba, with our geometry that is part of our reality that we have come here to co-create together from a higher domain, if you will. And all of the remnants of our previous collaborations, perhaps from a lower field where we began collecting this debris and we've now carried with us, begins to dissolve as we begin to resolve these inner conflicts that are actually storing the energy within our field. And so in essence, it is us, it is the we, that needs to work on this together with ourselves before we begin to collectively resonate at a higher harmony, a higher harmonic. And so while many of us are looking out at the debris, collectively agreeing that we do not like what we see, there are equal amounts that are not taking the time or the moment to, I'm seeing like moments throughout the day. I think today's a big energy day. I say that a lot, don't I? We're not taking the moments throughout the day to adjust and to pull that energy from inside of us to then send the signal out that disintegrates the remnants. Instead, it's reversed. We're pulling them into our field because we're not taking the time to adjust our own frequency. And I'm being shown there's actually proof that sound, as this is a for instance, sound has been proven to destroy tumors, for example. They're using sound in cancer treatments, I think especially with liver, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd encourage you to look that up. And many of you and I know that that's been around for a long time. They actually have video back, I don't know, it was a Greg Braden video I think I watched a long time ago where he shared monks in a hospital making a sound and helping to dissolve or shrink a tumor. And that's been documented in other countries, maybe here too, I don't know. And so we're just now starting to recognize that. We're starting to remember that. It's starting to come up again. It's already been done, but we're just late, if you will, to the show because we've been distracted watching the old show. And I'm hearing the old show down, and that's a play on words, like, you know, the Wild Wild West and the programming that supports that type of energy, and I'm hearing down, like keeping us into a place of lower harmonics. But what many people aren't realizing is if we can tune into our own heart space, we then see the debris and we stop drawing it to us, or we recognize that those are bits of information that are coagulates that we just can use that sound to clear the distortion. They're just distortions. And not getting stuck on a judgment about whose distortions they are. Recognizing that everything in the field is technically part of us because we are the field. From one perspective. I know that's really challenging because a lot of people I know many of us are feeling like there's a lot of people out there who are distorting the field. And we're like, stop, you don't need to do this. But clearly we are helping to clear those distortions. So rather than yelling at them, rein it back in on us, be the change. And this is it's literally cymatics. And again, I encourage everybody to look up what are cymatics. I'm hearing ho'oponopono. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. It comes back to that over and over and over again. And so many of us have been ensnared at times in our own trappings of the mind. Many of us have the mind or are of the mind that those are other people's stuff that we do not need to penetrate through or pierce through. But we would invite you to recognize that by being harmonious in this field, it naturally pierces that energy and allows clarity to sound through the, oh, I'm hearing a lot of different words, but noise, we'll say, interference. And as we do this, we stabilize the field. We stabilize the energetics that allow for the new grid to be felt. We share the grid for this is a morphogenetic field, might say. We might call it a earth grid, a human grid, a template or structure or an overlay that is part of what we all have been poured into in this particular geometric shape or sound signature that shapes our reality. Think of the matrix, think of the hologram, think of the template of the stage that we're part of, the game, right, that we're playing. I mean, we could go on to so many different comparisons. So let us talk briefly about the energetic components that are at hand, if you will. And we hand this over to a higher frequency. All right, so I'm gonna pause this for a moment and I'm just gonna kind of end on this note and then start another video because I have a feeling the message is gonna shift slightly. So I just wanna end on the previous note. As our harmonics become more balanced and stabilized, we are able to unify with a unified structure. But it's not as if we are all one animal, right? Moving the same, thinking the same, or what is that, a hive, right? A hive template. We can look at the beehive and the hive template, but look at the positives of it. Look at what the vibration does. Look at the honey that is made. Look at the honeycomb, and that's the shape. That's the template or the organization that the bee collective makes. And what I'm shown is we're like that, but ours has more of a fractal and a diverse snowflake template. So that's how it's always going to be. But many of us want a more organized yet individualized experience, meaning a space where we can each create from a field of non-judgment, from a field of integrity, a field of compassion. And so as this movement, or as we gather together with that intention in mind, it becomes more of the template that we are creating and co-creating together in our own unique way. It doesn't mean we're all going to fall under a certain format that each of us has to obey. It doesn't work like that. Although what I am being shown is we are still, I'm hearing we're defying the law of gravity. And we're essentially creating a different frequency than has ever been experienced before. And it's very exciting. So I'm gonna end on that note, in love and light. Namaste.